Okay, so I'm trying to do part 4 today of this book, of the introduction, the note to reader, and I don't think I'll be able to do it in one video because if the video is too long, I don't have enough memory or space to save it, so it may have to go to part 5, but this is part 4, and let's see where I left off yesterday or the day before. So all persons who work for an employer on a non-volunteer basis have a human right to be paid for their labor and to enjoy the fruits of their labor because their work product is theirs uniquely and belongs only to them unless they volunteer to give it away or they receive agreed upon compensation for it. That is what life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is all about. This liberty interest includes freely enjoying the fruits of one's labor, and one's labor providing the mechanism for finding happiness and improving one's life and that of one's children. All workers also have a right to be paid for their work, notwithstanding their nationality or labels used to describe them, so that they can also enjoy life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. The governments are obliged to compensate the heirs of these workers for the wage theft, body theft, and inheritance theft that occurred between 1619 and 1865. To be clear, money can never undo what happened to these millions of people whose humanity was violated so egregiously. Money cannot fix how their descendants have fared in the aftermath. Simply put, money symbolizes respect for these workers and for their work. It recognizes them as human beings who worked. It recognizes them as workers and employees. It changes the status slave because that is just an arbitrary label and a big lie. This status was attributed to these millions of workers arbitrarily to justify not paying them. Paying them now will change that slave status. These workers will now be prospectively described as workers who were paid 400 years late. Paying them now allows the essential workers to see that and enjoy the dignity of their work from the grave, and allows the heirs and descendants of these workers to feel the pride of the contributions made by their forebears rather than the shame of slavery. This will do wonders for the self-esteem of a lot of people living today who still have such a low image of themselves. Paying these workers, albeit 400 years late, will also, and very importantly, send a different message to other human beings, including little children who may one day grow up to be police officers and who have been indoctrinated to think of these workers and their descendants in a derogatory way, that all people, even those that look like so-called, quote, descendants of slaves, end quote, are subject or subjected to the same rules and the same rights under the law. Money cannot take us back to the status quo ante. It certainly will not bring George Floyd back. But money is symbolic of something important. Paying these workers and conveying their paychecks to their descendants will finally subject them to the same rules and the same rights. From this humble start, we as a human community can begin to imagine a future with more justice and liberty for all. It took me 6 brutal months to get the first draft of this book written, and about a year to finish the version you're currently reading. I tried hard to have it finished on the anniversary of Mr. Floyd's death, but I missed by a couple of weeks. This final draft is far from perfect. It's far from a perfect draft. It is riddled with typos and other gems, to say the least. In the end, I can only hope that my thoughts and my ideas will be coherent enough for you to understand the message I'm trying to convey. I can only hope that all my efforts will not have been in vain and that I will have added something of value to this important conversation that needs to be had in the world. I feel I owe these millions of workers a duty of care to at least try to present their case to the world. I feel I owe them a voice by which their case can be heard, not from the standpoint of nameless and faceless, quote, slaves, end quote, whose heads are hung in shame, but from the standpoint of essential workers and individuals who had the right to have rights and whose back-breaking labor built the economies of powerful nations without a single word of thanks that today are the richest in the world. Now for my disclaimers. Please note that while I make references to various legal sources, nothing in this book is intended to be legal advice. Nothing in this book establishes an attorney-client relationship between this author and anyone who reads this book. I'm not an expert on any of this. I certainly am not a historian or expert in the law. All I am is an author. As an author, I am simply sharing my opinions. I cannot confirm the accuracy of any of the information disclosed in this book. I used a lot of different sources, including case law, media articles, websites, databases, online documents, and books to help me to formulate my opinion on these issues. This book is not legal advice, however. If you wish to pursue a case based on anything written in this book, you are advised to consult a licensed attorney who is experienced in this type of case. Thanks again for reading. I hope you get to the end, even if it is a bit long. Marion T.D. Lewis, They Were Not Slaves, May 25th, 2021, Paris, France.